Welcome to You've Got This with Sarah Hamaker, a podcast to encourage and equip moms along their parenting journey. Join Sarah each week as she interviews dads and moms like you and discusses the joys, challenges, and rewards of raising kids.
Hi, and welcome to this week's You've Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hamaker. Today, I want to talk to you about chores, or how I like to say it, how I've stopped cleaning the house. About 7 years ago, I revamped our household chores, realizing that it was high time I stopped doing most of the cleaning around here. At the time, my 4 kids were between the ages of 4 and 9, a ready and able army of helpers. I sat down and wrote down all the chores I knew my kids were capable of handling. Then I wrote up specific instructions as to how those chores should be done, leaving nothing to the imagination. Finally, I mapped out who would do which chores on what days, putting in what time said chores must be accomplished. It's best to be as specific as possible to avoid, quote, misunderstandings, unquote, when kids are involved. When I reviewed the list, I realized that nearly every household cleaning task could be assigned to the children, from washing the kitchen floor to vacuuming, from taking out the trash to doing the dishes. Once everything was in place, I called a family meeting and informed the children of the new chores. While not exactly excited about the prospect, although my then 5-year-old did do a fist pump when being told his job would be setting the table for dinner, the kids have proved to be fairly proficient at cleaning. Not perfect, but with gentle instruction and encouragement, they will soon be doing it as well as any grown-up. Fast forward to 2019, and my kids, now between the ages of 10 and 16, have a regular rotation of chores ranging from taking care of the cats, mowing the front lawn, cooking dinner for the family once a week, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the kitchen, doing their own laundry. I could go on. Since you're listening to this podcast, you might not need further convincing about the importance of chores, but we're going to talk about the positive benefits, why chores shouldn't be tied to compensation, and how to introduce chores to kids. And I will put a plug in. I do have a wonderful Chores for Kids book. I've updated it for this year that has some of this material front matter in it, but it also has lists of suggested chores for kids ages 6, 8, 10, and 12. It also has specific examples of how to explain a chore to a child. From having the, for cleaning the bathrooms, it tells them what supplies to get, what order to do things in, what I mean by clean the bathroom. It leaves really nothing to chance. So it gives you examples of that. You can find that in a link with this podcast and also in my web store. It's really inexpensive. I think you'll find it a valuable addition to your home when introducing or upping or having your kids do chores. So let's talk about the positive benefits of chores. By their very nature, children are consumers. It starts innocently enough because as infants, children can't do anything. Sometimes, though, we as parents fail to guide our children through the transition from consumers to contributors. The bottom line, children consume enough of the family's resources that they should contribute to the family's upkeep. Here are 4 ways having regular chore benefits your kids. Now, if your kids say, I don't see the benefit, you don't have to tell them these 4 ways, but you really should keep these in mind when you think about whether your children should or should not do chores. Chores builds confidence. Just listening to my oldest teenage daughter brag to her friend that she cooks the entire dinner meal, including sides, by herself for the family. She has discovered she's capable of doing something without assistance, something that contributes to the family, something that is vital, really, to our well-being. I mean, we've got to eat. So chores do build confidence. Chores build character, specifically a good work ethic. Being a good employee when they grow up is started by teaching them how to be a good member of the family through chores. Believe me, your child's future employer will thank you. Now, the character part is when, you're not going to be constantly reminding your children. They need to know whose turn it is to do the dishes, and they need to do those things because it's their turn. They need to know that the cats need to be fed every morning. They know these things, and that builds character because it's teaching them that they are responsible. And that brings me to number 3, chores build responsibility. Giving your children the opportunity to serve within your family shapes their sense of responsibility. Kids vacuum, they set a table, they weed a garden, they dust a bookshelf, and they see that there's value in that. And they also see that that's their responsibility. They can see a job well done. And that when they know they need to do it, they do it. Chores contribute to the family. Some parents balk at the thought of having their children, quote, work, unquote, around the house. To that I say, aren't your children consumers in the family? Are they not part of the family? Then they should contribute to the upkeep of the family. And when you have kids who are vacuuming, doing the dishes, cooking, doing their own laundry, cleaning their own room, cleaning the main rooms, bathrooms and stuff, they are more apt to take care of those spaces. They are more apt to not use 20 dishes to make a snack when they know they're going to have to wash those dishes. They're more apt to think a little more clearly before they leave their stuff all over the house when they know that they have to clean it up. So it can help them be more responsible and just a kind of a better person to have around and not have all of that consumerism kind of stuff like the maid syndrome that somebody else is going to take care of it. No, that's someone else's, them or a sibling. Now let's talk about chores and compensation. Well-meaning parents tie chores to payment as a way to motivate their children to do the chores without fussing or to do a better job. But the chores payment tie-in can create a world of problems. Why? Because it gives the illusion that the child or the teen has a choice. Here's what I mean by that. One of 11-year-old Toby's Saturday jobs is to weed the large vegetable garden in the backyard. Not his favorite way to spend a sunny weekend day. His parents, tired of his complaining, decide to tell him that he'll get $5 for weeding the garden. That sounds really great to Toby, and he's off with a happy smile to the backyard. A few weeks later, Toby has a birthday and receives a gift card to his favorite store from his grandmother and a few dollars maybe from his great aunt. When Saturday rolls around, he's flush with cash and decides he doesn't, quote, need, unquote, the $5 payment for weeding the garden, which really needs some TLC. That puts his parents in a quandary. Because when they use $5 as a motivation to do the job, they didn't mean to say that if Toby didn't want the $5, he didn't have to do the chore. But in effect, that's what's tying compensation, whether monetary or something else like a special treat or outing or gift, to chores a child should do simply because he or she is part of your family. Chores are a service to the family. If you pay for the chore, then it's no longer an act of service. Now, I think that is something that we often get mixed up as parents, right? We want to motivate our kid to do the work, and we motivate them with money or with a special something. But when we do that, when it comes to regular chores around the house, we are leaving ourselves wide open for the kid to say, I don't want the reward, therefore I am not going to do the chore. When we do that, we just mess up the whole thing because kids should be doing the chore simply because they're part of the family. Kids should get an allowance simply because they're kids and they need a little walking around and spending money. So please do not tie chores to chores to allowance or allowance to chores. Just don't do it. However, there can be times when you decide an extra job that's not on the normal chore routine needs doing and that you're willing to pay for that extra job. I create a list of such jobs and assign small monetary amounts to those chores, a couple of bucks at most. If a child wanted to earn some extra money, he or she could ask to do the extra chore. Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I said no. And sometimes I assigned those extra chores without compensation. All job descriptions have other duties as assigned. Sometimes I would be, that's an other duty that's assigned by mom. And I'm not giving you the money for it this time because it just needs to be done and no one's asked to do it. That was also clearly understood by my kids. So it's important to remember that you need to have this as the parent, this firmly in your mind that chores are important, but chores should not be paid. I mean, you're not paid to go to the grocery store. You're not paid to mow the lawn, your own lawn. You do those things because A, they need to be done, and B, you love your family. So our kids need to know that. And in just a little bit, I'll talk about what to do when your kid complains about it. So just keep those things in mind. Now let's talk about introducing chores to your kids. If your kids have done minimal work around the house, or they have not done anything around the house, they're going to fuss about doing the work. Okay, they're going to. Ignore this. This is going to be hard, parents. Are you listening to me, mom and dad? Ignore the fuss. Who cares if they complain about it? So, sometimes we grumble about chores we have to do. I know, I hate going to the grocery store, and my kids know I hate going to the grocery store. I try not to complain all the time because, it needs to be done. I'm the one to do it. Fine. But I have to remember not to let my frustration with going to the grocery store color my every move. But I need to have a better heart attitude about that, and I work on that. And my kids see me working on that, but they see me going to the grocery store. I just don't skip it because I don't want to. And don't try to over-explain why they're doing chores. You know all this thing. I told you all these reasons. But you don't explain that to the kids. The one stock answer you need to give is because you're part of the family. And keep repeating that, and they'll eventually stop asking. Because you're part of the family. You're going to clean your room because you're part of the family. You're going to mow that grass because you're part of the family. That's all you need to say. And if they really give you pushback and you really feel like you want to, you can look at them and say, because you're a consumer in this family. You can add that. They consume things. They dirty the dishes. They dirty the bathroom. They dirty the clothes. They play in the yard. They, XYZ. They do those things. Therefore, they should help with the upkeep. The best way to introduce chores or to revamp your chores is with a family meeting. Have your chore charts and chore instructions ready. You can use the examples in my chore book as a starting point. Then give a brief introduction to the topic, followed by a dissemination of the chores by person. Hand around the chore charts and indicate where the chore instructions will be. I have a binder in my home where the kids all knew that's where the chore instructions would be. And all the kids can do that. Then you just don't turn them loose, okay? Your job is not done. When you introduce chores, you need to make sure that you're going to have time over the next month, 4 to 6 weeks, to guide your children in doing the chores. This is the hard part as parents. This is the training ground that we do. We just don't hand them a sheet of paper and say, hey, here's your chores. Here's how you do your chores. See you later. Bye. No, we need to help our children learn how to do chores. So that means that you're going to have to be more involved in the beginning. And then you're going to gradually back off until they're basically doing them on their own. So the training should be twofold. Step 1 is you need to demonstrate the chores. You'll need to do this more in the beginning, remember. Get the chore instruction sheet and have the child go through it. So when I was teaching my youngest how to clean a bathroom for the first time, I said, okay, look on the chore instruction sheet. What supplies do you need? He goes, well, I need the bathroom basket. And we keep all our bathroom cleaning supplies in this basket. Okay, check to make sure you have everything. Sometimes things get misplaced. So he checked. I said, we went in there. Okay, now what does it say next? So he said it. He goes, well, okay, which one is that? So we walked through it. I showed him how not to point the scrubbing bubbles in his eyes, where to go, how much to put on, what to remove from the bathroom. We don't need to wash the bar of soap. That can go out. We don't need to wash the extra toilet paper. That can go out. So we walked really through how to do it. Remind him, oh yeah, clean the sink first, clean the shower next, and then clean the toilet last. Because you don't want to use the rag that's on the toilet on the sink. And we talked about why we didn't want to do that. Step 2, I did that. And then the next time he called me, okay, Mom, I need some help. So we walked through it again. The third time, he needed just a little bit guidance. By the fourth time, he had gotten it. He was able to do it by himself. Now, was he cleaning the bathroom perfectly? No. So we're going to get to our idea of perfection and what clean is in just a minute. But so step 1 is you demonstrate and you're available to clean alongside a child, helping them to do the work. Step 2 is letting them do the chore with light supervision, such as you're coming in the middle of the chore, you're available for questions, but you're not right there in the chore. We must view chores as a training ground, which means the child will not do the task perfectly, especially in the beginning. Give your child age-appropriate chores and responsibilities, and you step back. You let them make mistakes, which means, are you listening, parents? Which means you're going to be rewashing dishes. which means you might be smartening up the edges of your lawn, which means that you may have to remake the bed and help them get the corners all the way under, which means that you are going to have to show them, have to rehang some of their wet clothes up because they stuck them all together, which means that you are going to have to do a little bit of extra cleanup in the beginning. I rewashed a lot of pots every time my kids were learning how to wash dishes. Now, I don't have to rewash. I won't rewash hardly any pots because they've learned how to do it. So we need to remember that you're going to have patience as your child learns. You're going to have to resist the urge to micromanage a child and to overly criticize their work. Nobody likes to be told every time they clean the bathroom that they didn't do something. So this is a great example of when a parent is just going to have to let it go. You're going to need just to go, yeah, you cleaned the bathroom. That's great. Now, if they actually didn't clean it, that's one thing. But if you could tell that they cleaned it, it just wasn't to your satisfaction, that's another thing. So you let them clean it. And maybe every 5 or 6 times you go, I think maybe you're getting a little lazy, or if you notice they only spend like 3 minutes in the bathroom, you may have to go, you need to spend a little more time. And here's the things that I want. Here's one thing that I really want you to focus on. And then, 5 or 6 weeks go by and then you say, hey, that sink is looking great, but now I really want you to focus on the drain in the shower because I've noticed that it's starting to get a little cruddy. Do you see that, what I'm talking about? So you kind of point those out and you gently correct them. But if you are on your kid every time they do the chore and you're behind them going, you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right, that child is going to be discouraged, is not going to want to do chores, and he's going to grumble about doing the chores. You also should tell your child that you appreciate their contribution to the home in the form of chores. Make sure that you catch them doing a chore and you compliment them on that. Doesn't have to be effusive. You have to say good job. Like, for example, one of my sons has to clean out the cat boxes. Nasty job. Every once in a while, I'll look at him and say, I really appreciate that you do this job and that you do it so well. And those just little things, I tell my daughters, thank you for cooking tonight. That was such a huge blessing for me not to have to cook. You tell them these things because you want them to feel appreciated. You want them to know that you notice that they're doing their chores. You don't always want it to be a negative interaction with chores. And finally, and remember that chores are not all about the end game, what's being accomplished. Yeah, it's about things clean and things being folded and put away and food to eat and grass to be cut. But it's also about learning tasks. You're teaching your children life skills. Like I told my kids, you are not going to leave my house and not know how to do laundry, clean a bathroom, vacuum, cook a meal, take care of a yard. You're not going to not know those things. Those things are life skill important things, and to do laundry. You're going to be able to do those things as an adult. And frankly, a lot of their peers are impressed that they can do these things. I overheard one of my sons talking about, oh yeah, I got to go do laundry. The other kid was like, you do laundry? He goes, yeah, I do. We do our own laundry. And they were just like impressed, like, wow. I mean, that seems like a grown-up thing. And here's this 10-year-old kid doing laundry. So it gives them this sense of, responsibility and character building, and it works together for everyone's good, right? When we all clean the house and the house is all clean and it's all done, there's some sense of satisfaction that, wow, we're working together as a family. We are a team. When we keep that bigger picture in mind, we will have much more success in having our kids do chores. Well, I hope this has given you some good food for thought about chores. And again, if you want to have all this information in one inexpensive ebook, check out my Chores for Kids. I updated it in 2019. You can find the link in this with this podcast, or you can just go to my webpage at sarahhamricker.com, my web store there, and pick up your copy today. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining me on You've Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hamricker.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast of You've Got This with Sarah Hamaker. Sign up to receive notification of new podcasts and listen to previous editions at sarahhamaker.com. Until next time, remember, parenting might be hard sometimes, but don't worry, you've got this.